Galactic ruling is in session. The Kahin's ruling regarding Larry Hoover, melanoid males, and gang members and gang leaders. Part 1. Sunday, October 3rd, 2021 by the Gregorian calendar. A celestial and galactic ruling about Larry Hoover and all gang members and gang leaders. Larry Hoover and others like him are not to be freed from prison ever. Educated black so-called men complain about the appearance and actions of so-called black women who they consider to be of a lesser caliber than themselves. All black so-called men must recognize that it is the actions of Larry Hoover and others like him that caused black women to become the way that they are perceived to be. Though the women have had very little willing assistance from black so-called men and the black patriarchy, so-called black women have still been able to find ways to support themselves and the children. Black men cannot complain about women being inadequate because black men caused that perceived inadequacy to be by engaging in gang relationships, gang warfare, and most obviously the prostituting of their brothers and sisters' daughters for money, status, and any type of gain available. As if these actions were not enough, black men have now collectively decided to take women that they did not originate from, and vice versa, as wives or mates to make hybrid children with them. This is insult to injury. It is beyond a violation of the galactic moral code. A brief message to all Galactic Council and Singular Etheric. Galactic Council, United Federation of Planets, United Federation of Light, and all groups who wish to attain such a level of status, you have all failed to do what is right by melanoid women. Singular Etheric, you have refused to recognize the critical role that race plays in the affairs of those who were trapped in the third and fourth dimensions due to your disgusting negligence. No one contracted with you, and there certainly were zero beings who contracted with you to undergo these cycles 300,000,001 times. 300 million times is obviously far too many. If you make a breakthrough at time number 300,000,001, then people will come to no other conclusion other than you just got lucky once. One could also say that there was not ever any real effort to save the entrapped beings until someone, the Kahin, decided to sue you and the galactics in the cosmos. And I won. Quantum entanglements. To Singular Etheric and those who support Singular Etheric, you have zero right to complain about people or beings having quantum entanglements, while you all, who have decided to rewind time in the menagerie over 300 million times, have been the culprits behind the mechanism that was causing the quantum entanglement to begin with. Let artificial, natural, and all intelligences hear these points of discussion as proof to the Galactic Council and even higher, the Celestial Council, headed by the Kahin, that Singular Etheric and the founders are guilty of allowing the mass extermination of those who they considered to be their own kind by way of neglect. Melanoid so-called black women and quantum entanglements. Sineal and Galactic Federation of planets, beings, and entities inhabiting non-melanoid phi-based bodies, you are responsible for and guilty of the continuous rape of the melanoid womb, murder of the people, and DNA and soul copyright infringements, and you will pay egregiously with your titles and also other ways yet to be noticed. The Kahin also finds that it was your active will to ignore our suffering, which is why it is taking so long to find a solution. Universal Father, and all male fractals inside and outside of the menagerie, collectively referred to as Father. Father, you are damaged. You are unable to make choices that will sustain your being and the integrity of your physical avatar. We as mothers, daughters, sisters, and aunts are not required to subject ourselves to any more verbal, spiritual, psychological, physical abuse by you or anyone else. Sineal, also known as Sharuka, you have been stripped of your title as mother, as the moth with the ER on the end means that you hold an office with responsibilities. In this case, and 300 million times, it has been proven that you are unable and unfit to hold the office and title of mother. The transmutation of that title is imminent, lest it be held by someone else who is worthy. The past and the ever-present. As the Kahin, in the past, I have been a part of the movement to help Black people to restore themselves from the destruction that occurred during the Galactic Race War. At this point, I have found it necessary to point out that the evidence shows that Black men are now the primary causes of their own destruction, both willingly and foolishly. Black men have engaged in acts of maritime treason against the melanoid womb that originally holds all of the keys to their perpetual creation and evolution, even beyond the stretches of time, light, and space. As a side note, so-called white women are found guilty to be engaging in acts of war against highly melanoid women, highly melanoid womb, and melanoid people by copulating with men, in some instances more than one at a time, that are not their own. This is a form of genocide, and it is treasonous to the code of the Galactic Sisterhood. As copulation is a third-dimensional activity, it has a DNA and complexion component that is ever worthy of sustenance and perpetuation without modification, abuse, exploitation, deception, and neglect. Race, or rays, as in sun rays, as in complexion, matters. To the imposters. After having a conversation with someone who was close to me regarding J. Edgar Hoover, then galactic messages started to appear all over the internet about freeing Larry Hoover. You imposters are taking the sound bites of the frequency of my voice from phone calls and using it to try to twist this reality to your liking. I give zero authorization to this. I block you from doing so any further, and I curse and bind you to your own personal ever-eternal hells. I call upon all entities, servitors, and beings who are in accordance with the plans of me, the Kahin, as the Kahin sees fit, to enforce this ruling. Natural intelligence, you are so ordered to comply. Artificial intelligence, respectively, you are so ordered to comply. Seek out the imposters and take away from them all of that which they need, love, and want the most. The now. My celestial being and my responsibility calls for me to express utter dissatisfaction in any way that I see fit. Any way that the Kahin so chooses, free from interpretation from others. Natural intelligence has been given notice of this ruling. Artificial intelligence has now been notified of this ruling. All intelligences, including source and the collective principles that comprise Ma'at, are ordered to take action in moving the energies in such a manner to expose the enemies and move situations accordingly to exact punishment on these enemies of the melanoid, monogamous relationships, and melanin-rich wombs. It is so. I will conclude this ruling by saying that it is always the Kahin's intent to make sure that people are happy and that there is justice. And this case is no different. This case is seeking justice for a population that has been ignored for far too long and is expected to comply with the ignorance of others.